Hello and welcome to Bookworms. It's the show where we read a book and then talk about that book. I'm your host, Alex, with a cold.
And I'm Joe, without
Hi,
a cold.
how you doing, Joe?
I'm doing good, Alex. So, how long have you had this cold?
Oh, a
Should,
couple
should,
days now.
should I be in a different room than you? Or
Yeah,
am I already infected?
yeah, we should really be keeping Zoom in business right now. Oof.
Yeah, we do need to figure out how to do this Zoom thing. It might help us with actually getting recordings done in a timely fashion.
Yeah, that would be very helpful, I think. I'll be popping my mic off and on every time I need to sniffle.
Of course, you don't read the books typically fast enough to do the recordings more often, so that there is that.
Yeah, I'm reading a lot, but I'm not reading the books I'm supposed to be reading very much.
I've noticed on Goodreads.
Yeah. You stalk me, don't you? I wake up and then I notice you post at 5 in the morning like Joe Kendall liked your review of uh whatever it was you were reading. Get in my swamp.
Yeah, do you not get up at 5 a.m., Alex?
I do not.
What's wrong with you? Early bird catches the worm, after all.
Yeah, but the second mouse gets the cheese.
I don't think that's how that works, but okay. I think all the mice end up dying eventually.
Don't we all die in the end?
No, just you.
Please.
Anyways,
Speaking of dying, we have a book for you today. What a segue.
yeah, on death even.
Yeah, so this was one of my choices, and I'd say this is probably my second all-time favorite book that we're about to talk about.
This was the favorite book of mine that you picked so far, Alex.
Yeah, so after out of the 16 books that you've chosen, this is like number 17 on the list.
No, I want to say that. I said out of your 15 that we've done thus far, because we got one more, and I've already read that book, so we can say out of 16 books, this is ranked one out of your number one out of your list.
What do you think is your number one overall so far?
Ooh, that's tough. That's going to be either Terry Pratchett's Night Watch or Ian M. Banks' The Use of Weapons.
Ooh, solid choices.
I mean, tough competition, but no doubt about it. So
Yeah, I think Use of Weapons is still my number one choice out of everything you've chosen so far.
okay. With Night Watch being a close, Terry Pratchett's Night Watch being a close second.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. How does this book rank compared to my top choice, my books?
This one kind of blows them all out of the water. I like this book a lot. I love this book.
It is a middle
I'm
school read, so
I am
it is
about
up here.
to gush over this book. It is so good. It is amazing. It's one of the best books you will ever read. It might be middle grade fiction, but it really just hits no matter what age you read it at. It's that good. It's an all ages book. Everyone would.
As I said,
Everyone would
I
benefit
did
from
really
reading
love
it.
this book. This is your best book you've picked so far, I think. Have we covered your number one book?
No, we will next time though.
Okay.
My next choice is my number one book.
Oh, your next pick.
Yes.
This season.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to end my half of the season with my number one choice.
Okay. Oh, that's a bit of a letdown.
Really? Oh, that one's good too. It's just fun. That's a fun book. We're going to end with.
Okay. Well, at least we'll end it with a good one from me, so don't
Yeah.
worry.
Yeah, it's a good one that's going to take forever to get through. Ugh,
Wait till you get to season 3.
I know you were going to punish me season 3. I'm going to really have to stay on top of my reading next year.
Yeah, you're gonna definitely suffer and be very angry at times because reading books you don't want to have to read.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our current one though. This one is called A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, inspired by an idea from Siobhan Dowd, with illustrations by Jim Kay.
So, have you ever read Siobhan Dowd?
I have not.
Have you ever read any other Patrick Ness?
I have not. I wish I had read more Patrick Ness. I like with how good this book is, I really want to read more of both of those authors.
Because Patrick
yeah.
Ness was trying to, I guess when in the introduction he was saying how he was supposed to write in her voice, but decided that would be bad, so he just tried to write a story that she would like. Because apparently Siobhan is some major famous author, I guess.
Yeah, she was she died in her as she was hitting her prime. Like she was an up and coming Irish author, And this was
Irish, so must be the best, right?
absolutely. And this was her last idea that she'd written down. Like I think they said she had basically the idea, the premise, and like a chapter or two written, and they basically got Patrick Ness to finish it for her because it was a great idea, and they wanted to honor Siobhan Dowd's legacy as an author by publishing her final idea. So Patrick Ness, like he's got his own voice, and so it's really hard to write in another writer's voice and have it come off as authentic. So I think he definitely wrote his own thing. I think if I had read both of those authors, I'd probably be able to speak more to it. However, it's he just this book is just a wallop of emotion, and it's he does a really good job with it. Whether it's writing in his voice or Siobhan Dowd's voice, he does really quite the honor to the source material.
And apparently this book, a lot of people have liked this book because it's won both the Carnegie Medal and the Kate Greenway Medal. So it's the first book to do that. That's what the back says, Alex.
Yes.
Did you not read the back?
I did read the back. I was looking at they have the medals on the front of the book too.
Yeah, the ones you can barely see what they are other than gold medals.
Yeah, you got to squint to read what they are. But yes, I've never heard of the Kate Greenway medal. I've heard of the Carnegie. But,
well, it's for illustrations. So.
Yeah, and the illustrations in this are just baller.
Yeah, they are pretty good drawings.
They're like charcoal drawings, and they just set the tone perfectly. It's so good. Everything about this book is good. I will read the back of the book, and we will dive right in.
Speak up, Alex.
I will read the back of the book, and we'll dive right in. The monster showed up after midnight, as they do. But it isn't the monster Connor's been expecting. The one from the nightmare he's had nearly every night since his mother started her treatments. The one with the darkness, and the wind, and the screaming. This monster is something different, something ancient, something wild, and it wants the truth. And that's all they give you. So we've had some books that will explain literally everything, but this one's very vague about what you're about to read.
It's better than the ones that tell you what it is, then you read it, and it's nothing to do with the back of the...
Yeah, Butcher and the Wren.
Yeah, Butcher and the Wren.
But yeah.
Or another book I just recently read, Alex, that we talked about earlier, that there will be a Medium post on probably by the time this goes up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. You're actually going to comment on it?
Yes, I am.
All right. Free publicity.
It's not going to be a kind review.
Yeah. If only they'd been better at scheduling. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. I had a agency reach out asking if we want to interview some authors, and it just doesn't work out because they were apparently in England, and, well, we have daytime jobs, and they weren't available at American evenings.
Yeah, it's all right, though.
Yeah.
Well, if we get something cool like that, we'll schedule it for a bonus episode, and it'll be fun.
Yeah.
We're on working man schedules, so we got to make it work to ourselves.
Yeah, it sucks having jobs.
Yeah, it does. If you want to fund this podcast, reach out to kendallbookworms@gmail.com. And
Yeah, we will do this full time if we're both making. I don't know, what do you think, Alex? $60,000 to $80,000 a year. Sound fair?
$60,000 to $80,000 a month is perfectly adequate.
Anyways.
Yeah, we're getting sidetracked here with begging for money, but the book is A Monster Calls. It's about a boy named Connor O'Malley. We know his name is Connor O'Malley because they say his name about 10,000 times in this book.
Well, you kind of got to. He's your main character.
Yeah,
it is all about him, after all.
Yeah, it's funny though. Like the monster always calls him Connor O'Malley, the full name.
I think that's a Fae thing, and this is kind of related to the Fae. You know, he is the monster. I mean, obviously, Connor doesn't know what kind of monster he is. He's just, oh, that's a monster, and he's 13-year-old kid. I think the last thing he cares about right now is learning about fairies and all the lore that goes with that.
Yeah, the lore behind the monster, like, I don't know, like you go to you read Twilight or watch Twilight, and they give you all the action-packed goodness of a Google search on what is a vampire. But this one, there's almost no research into the monster. It's just, he's called a monster. He takes the form of a giant yew tree, and
And does monstrous things.
and he demands stories, and he tells his own stories, and that's about it. That's all you really know about the
It's
monster.
pretty monstrous when they demand stories.
Yeah, you don't even know if it's real or if it's in Connor's head, and he's just working through some stuff. But yeah, it's a very interesting way to manifest grief and to go through that whole grieving process because Connor is dealing with some shit in his life.
Yeah, divorced parents, doesn't estranged dad, and his mom is dying of cancer, and he's about to get stuck with a grandmother he doesn't really like.
Yep, he's really in hard denial about his mom dying. Like the opening pages, like she starts going into, oh, I'm starting some new treatments, and he keeps cutting her off. Like he doesn't want to talk about it at all. He's really refusing to believe that his mom is. Well, he's accepting that his mom is sick, but he's refusing to acknowledge that his mom is sick, even though she's been, going through radiation treatments and dealing with a lot of issues resulting from that, just constant fatigue, headaches, vomiting, just being really sick.
Your standard chemo, radiation type, symptoms going on.
Yeah, and at the same time, everyone at school is treating him like he is different because it's common knowledge that his mom is dying. And
his best friend spilled the beans on that one when she wasn't supposed to.
yeah, he confided in his friend Lily, and Lily told everybody. And now most people are ignoring him. The teachers, they treat him like he is different. And some kids have taken to bullying him.
Yeah, which Connor actually enjoys because it's something different.
Yeah.
He's being treated like a almost normal kid who deserves punishment because he thinks he deserves punishment.
Yes, we find out later in the book that he does blame himself for his mom getting sick, and for there's a lot of talk about the importance of faith in healing, and he's kind of admits that he doesn't really have faith at the end, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So basically, we start off with Connor going to school. The bully and his two goons sneak up on him and start pushing him around. Lily steps in to defend him. Teacher comes out to break it up, and of course Connor denies everything, and Lily ends up being the only one that gets in trouble, and she feels betrayed. And Connor's just like, good.
Yeah, he's brutal to Lily. It's
yeah, he is angry and not without cause, but he's definitely not being rational about it. But again, 13-year-old boy, what do you expect?
And before this interaction even happens between the bully's name is Harry, and he's basically like Malfoy with his lackeys Crab and Goyle. He's got Harry and his two friends, and his two friends just stand back and laugh at everything Harry does. But yeah, before we have that, the monster actually appears in the first sentence of the book. So let's read that.
Okay. All right. Why don't you do that, Alex?
So I've already technically read it because it's also the opening line of the back of the book. The monster showed up just after midnight, as they do. Connor was awake when it came. He'd had a nightmare. Well, not a nightmare, the nightmare. The one he'd been having a lot lately. The one with the darkness and the wind and the screaming. The one with the hand slipping from his grasp, no matter how hard he tried to hold on. The one that always ended with... Go away, Connor whispered in the darkness of his bedroom, trying to push the nightmare back, not let it follow him into the world of waking. Go away. He glanced over the clock his mom had put on his bedside table. 12:07, 7 minutes past midnight, which was late for a school night. Late for a Sunday, certainly. So that sets up a lot of themes between the nightmare and the time of 12:07, and also the monster coming. It goes on further. The monster starts calling his name and talking about having come walking, and he's not sure if it's a dream or if he's awake, but it's like it comes to the edge of the house and it's like talking to him through his window. And he says, he tells Connor, he's like, I'm going to come again. I'm going to tell you 3 stories, and then you're going to tell me a 4th story, and it must be the truth. And it all starts there. But yeah, the nightmare, the recurring nightmare, becomes a recurring theme in the book, and the time of 12:07 because the monster always comes at 12:07.
Yeah, and we don't know what that recurring nightmare is because Connor doesn't want to tell anybody about it because he's too humiliated, I guess, embarrassed by it.
He's embarrassed. He's racked with guilt over what happens in the nightmare, and yeah, it's a big reason he's blaming himself for everything that's happening in his life right now. We learn a lot more as we go along with Connor, like his mom's, like the medications not taking like it should have. So she's actually getting a lot worse, a lot faster than was anticipated. It's kind of like, oh, we gave you a year to live, and turns out you only actually had 6 months, kind of deal. And the grandma comes in. She's very business proper. She's unlikable to begin with. She's very controlling. She's very domineering, overbearing. She's very like, this is a proper way of how to do things. She's very blunt and direct. And she doesn't really get along well with children in general. And her and Connor just never get along. And so, like, her being in the picture, but like getting in between him and his mom has always been a big issue. The monster eventually comes, they talk more. The monster is supposed to be big and evil and this, it's supposed to look like a bad thing. But in the end, it's just telling stories, and Connor starts doing things like talking back to it and fighting it and like walking away from it when it's getting too, like when its talk is boring or it's not telling him what he wants to hear. But the monster keeps like pushing and pushing, and rather than fight him though, it just always uses its words, even when it's like holding him in its hand or like threatening to swallow him whole.
It kind of makes you question who is the actual monster, and because again, not knowing anything about this monster other than it's a monster and it's a yew tree, and I don't know if anyone's seen. Have you ever seen a yew tree, Alex?
I have not.
As I kind of remembered it, but it's not a common tree out here in the northeastern U.S. So I looked it up just to make sure, and it is a weird looking tree. I think they're fairly common in England, and it's different looking. It's not your typical oak or maple or fir tree. So
yeah, it's associated with healing. Yeah, they're big, they're branchy, they give off berries. They kind of look like fir trees to a degree. Kind of picture like was it Lion King, the tree that Rafiki lives in? Kind of looks like that a little bit.
Yeah, it's probably closer to that, but a lot more branchier and stubbier and thinner branches. Not something that a baboon would be climbing and living in.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably hop on Google and Google yew tree. That's what I just did. So, all the thrilling things of a Google search.
But yeah, so I said it makes you kind of question, who is or what is the monster, because clearly this monster is not acting monstrous necessarily. I mean, you hear the stories and you're like, okay, yeah, I could see this is a monster because the monster does do some devastating things to some people. But then you hear the reasoning behind it and you're like, oh, okay, so is it a monster or is it just serving justice?
Yeah, and this is one thing that really impresses me with this book is like the yew tree's version of justice. Like, for this being a middle grade fiction, it's really hard concepts to wrap your head around because it's like not black and white at all. And like children, they have concrete thinking. Like it's very black and white. It's very linear, but like the concepts he's introducing in his stories, they are really hard for even most intelligent adults to wrap their heads around. So it's very impressive that he's trying to pull this off in a kid's book, and he does so magnificently.
Yeah, so he's pulling it off. It's not that he's trying; he is pulling it off.
Yeah, it's
so
insanely well done. But yeah, the yew tree tells his first story
basically
as the grandma starts living with them in their house. The yew tree tells his first story.
Gets Connor's room in the bed because she doesn't want to sleep on the couch, and Connor gets stuck on the couch and he's resentful and angry, and what 12-year-old kid wouldn't be when they're kicked out of their bedroom and they're already dealing with a lot of stuff between home and school, and now you got this added thing with a person you don't really care for because she's never shown a inkling of interest in you. And you get a little bit of backstory about how they've had some butted heads before, and it just he's had to stay with her before because again she's the mom's been sick for quite a while now, and So it never works out well. So yeah, the monster comes in and tells his first story. What's that story about, Alex?
The story is about a king. He has one surviving son, and like all his other children die. His wife dies, and he remarries. He remarries a much younger woman, and then eventually the king dies.
As kings will do often when
Yeah.
their first wife dies or is beheaded or thrown into a well because they need more hairs.
Yeah. The wife is suspected of witchcraft and of poisoning the king after the king dies.
But she's well loved. It's not until the prince is of age that she doesn't want to give up power that the rumors start.
Yeah, and then the prince also falls in love with a common village woman, but the wife of the king, the new queen, doesn't think it's a good match because royalty and the common folk don't mix. So she thinks actually the prince should marry her and become a king as co-heirs.
And they're actually relatively close in age.
Yeah. His father had married young. Well, it's still kind of fucked up though. But
Yes and no. I think
in a feudal system back in ancient times, like the yew tree is describing, like this is probably more common practice. But
in today's practice, it would be utterly abhorrent. So you get that kind of yuck factor for the reader, but then you think it's like, well, this is probably more common back then than you would think. Basically, leading up to this, the queen had done a very good job ruling the kingdom, better than the king had done, better than what they believed the prince would do. But because it's the prince and the son of the king, a lot of people agree that it should go to him.
Yeah, but the prince decides to choose love, and he runs away with the girl. But then they consummate their relationship underneath a yew tree, and then he wakes up and he finds the girl dead, stabbed to death. And the villagers are chasing after him, and he says the queen has murdered this girl, and they go to revolt against the queen, so stage a coup so that they can put the prince on the throne.
Yeah,
and that's when that's when the monster comes a walking, and he steps in and he saves the day. But it's not what you think, because he actually takes the queen and hides her and keeps her safe and makes it so that the prince never sees her again. And he also reveals that the prince is the one who killed his lover.
He also revealed that the queen did kill her husband and was a witch too, though.
Yeah, and Connor hears all this, these plot twists in this story, and he gets totally pissed. He's like, what the fuck did you just tell me this story for?
And I got a quote here for the end of because basically the story has almost two endings. It has the ending where he saves the witch queen, but the prince, does the prince still take over the kingdom, or does he get?
Yep, the prince he eventually becomes king, and he has a very long and successful rule.
Yeah, so you get that ending, and the kid's like, why did you save the witch? And then the monster goes, well, here's what actually happened, and you get the more brutal part of the story of the prince is killing his supposed love of his life, so he can blame it on the queen mother, and get her disposed of, so he could take over and marry whoever, someone else, because he realizes, girls are dime a dozen when you're a king, and you can marry whoever you want and do whatever you want.
Yeah, he decides to sacrifice his true love in favor of his kingdom.
So Connor, of course, is really upset about this because he feels like he's been cheated out of in a story. And I got a little quote here. And you can always tell when you're reading this when the monster's talking, because everything's in italics. So the monster's saying, there is not always a good guy, nor is there always a bad one. Most people are somewhere in between. Connor shook his head. That's a terrible story, and a cheat. It is a true story, the monster said. Many things that are true feel like a cheat. Kingdoms get their princes they deserve. Farmers' daughters die for no reason, and sometimes witches merit saving. Quite often, actually. You'd be surprised. Connor glanced up at his bedroom window again, imagining his grandma sleeping in his bed. How is it that's supposed to save me from her? The monster stood to its full height, looking down on Connor from afar. It is not her you need saving from, it said.
Yeah, the monster's still keeping things vague with that.
Vague, but at the same time, there is a lot to read into that. Like we were saying, you're putting in some really deep concepts that a lot of adults would miss, let alone the kids. They're just right over their heads. But it's saying it's like yeah, there's no such thing as good people versus bad people necessarily.
Yeah, and like not everything's quite what it seems, and sometimes like he gets into this towards the end of the book too, when he kind of recaps all the stories all together. Sometimes bad stuff happens to good people, and good stuff happens to bad people.
So yeah, so as I said, it is very deep, and you can just keep digging there and keep finding gold if you wanted to.
Oh yeah. But yeah, then the monster leaves again. He leaves a tree growing inside of Connor's.
Yeah, every time Connor confronts the monster in the house, something happens. Like the first time he gets a bunch of needles all over the floor he has to clean up. Then he gets a tree growing out of the floor.
Yeah, there's like little like jabs of humor into the book too. The monster can sometimes have like tell a little joke there, be a little bit subtle, like be a little coy with what he's saying. It kind of like helps with the like the likening of the monster and making it like taking away, like this is a heavy book emotionally. It just helps kind of leaven it a little bit. Like I like inserting humor into tense moments like that.
Yeah, I think it's something to keep it, because if you just it was all depressing, it's just a torture to read. You need something. In real life, it's even people that are depressed and distraught, they end up laughing over something, and a lot of times it's they feel guilty about it, but it's actually healing. It's good for you to be able to laugh. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, laughter is the best medicine. See, just add another year to your life. But yeah, then Connor goes about his days again. He has to spend half a day or half a night sawing through the tree, so no one will figure that out. But then they kind of tell Connor two just really horrible things are happening. Number one, his mom's medication's not taken well. She's going to be staying at the hospital a little bit longer than expected, and he has to go live with his grandmother at her house, which is, if you've ever been to an old Mima's house, it's full of a bunch of breakables and antiques that kids really shouldn't be touching, and it's very sterile, and you're not really allowed to sit on the cushions for fear of crinkling them. And also, his father is coming. And it is not a good thing when his father comes.
Don't forget this. He's alienated his only friend, Lily. And even though, like, the beginning of the next chapter after that first story, Lily goes up to him and says, "I forgive you," and Connor wants to hear none of it. He's like, "No, you got what you deserved. Leave me alone." Because, again, he doesn't, he's angry, and he's lashing out at, the only people he knows how to lash out at. And that's, unfortunately for everyone involved, it's his only friend, Lily. And she, of course, is hurt and doesn't quite understand, so she wanders away and basically ignores him for a good chunk of the rest of the book.
Yeah, he's getting bullied by Harry again, and Lily doesn't step in this time. And he's dealing with a lot of the loneliness that comes with grief, and he's kind of wallowing in his own misery in that manner. But he gets really alarmed when he finds out his father is coming from America, because his father had left his mother for another woman and moved to America, and
he's picking up a lot of Americanisms.
Yeah, and he's been very distant because he's got a new wife, he's got a new kid, and his wife, it's implied, is very jealous of his former family, so she always, like, quote unquote, gets sick whenever he goes to visit Connor, and he always has to cut his trip short or not come at all. So he really only sees him like once or twice a year on birthdays and Christmases.
Yeah, he doesn't even get like the Zoom calls, which this
the
is
occasional phone call.
It's
well, this book came out in 2011, so it was a Skype call.
Skype call, yes, yeah. So my apologies, Alex.
Yeah, throwback. Am I right?
I know. That's the problem when you name technologies that kind of dates you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so Connor is kind of pushing back at his father when his father does show up, and his father basically is trying to play the cool dad, never around dad, and not actually say anything or promise anything. And I wrote a little note here basically saying it is important for parents to talk openly and truthfully to their children. It's hard, and there are stuff that you don't want to say because basically kids aren't necessarily mature or don't need to know. But in something like this, where between obviously Connor doesn't understand the divorce, let alone the remarriage and his dad moving away, let alone why everyone's dancing around the stuff about his mother and nobody will actually say what's going on. They hint at it, but when it comes down to say, yes, she is dying, she's not going to make it. Oh yeah, there is still hope. There's still hope. There's still hope.
Yeah, even the mom is saying like, "Oh, I know I'm going to recover. I'm going to get better. I promise I am going to get better. This medication is going to work. You just have to have faith."
And the grandmother keeps saying, "Your mom needs to have a talk with you. Your dad needs to have a talk with you." And both of them are failing to say it. The grandmother doesn't want to say it because she doesn't want to admit it either because it's her, as we said, it's her daughter.
Yeah, like the grandmother's right in that they should tell him like this is not going to end well, but at the same time, yeah, she's not going to be the one to do it. Whether she thinks it's not her place because like she doesn't get on well with Connor, or again, if she just doesn't want to do it herself, it's
again she
hard
probably
to say.
would have been the perfect person to say it because it would have been a good. He was like, "Yeah, it's your mom, but it's my child," and we're both grieving because how do you replace your mother? How do you replace your daughter? Kind of moment. But again, nobody is willing to basically adult up and do the hard thing.
Yeah, everyone's kind of behaving like a child. It's a hard situation. It's hard to know what to do, but they're definitely not. No one's really handling it correctly. No one, even Connor's not handling it well, and also like his mom, his dad, his grandmother aren't.
You assume
handling it
Connor's
well.
not going to handle well because he's, a middle school age kid.
Exactly.
And he's doing exactly what you would recognize of the withdrawing and getting angry over little things and lashing out when it's inappropriate to lash out, and just causing mischief. And I don't know if obviously the teachers aren't reporting home to what's happening because they realize what's going on. They're like, oh, they're not gonna be able to deal. But even they're like I think maybe. This is naive of me, but nowadays I would feel like there would be some sort of counseling at the school for the kids. They would have a legit counselor go to the kid and say, okay, we're going to have a sit down and we're going to talk about this.
Yeah, like the teachers are like, oh, we'll go easy on him. We're not going to make him talk in class, where if he acts out of line, we're going to look over it. And Connor actually, that hurts him because they are treating me like I am different.
And I'm not saying like the counselor necessarily needs to be the one that says that, oh yeah, your mom is going to die, but at least the counselor would help Connor work through his feelings and get at what is the root, what is going on, versus this everyone's gonna handle this with kids gloves and resolve nothing.
Yeah, and his dad is really no help. He's I wouldn't say he's like a bad person, but he's definitely not like Connor's not his priority anymore. Like Connor's
he's not really present.
Life.
Yeah. And you can tell he's grieving because his ex-wife, he even though they got divorced, there's still some sort of feeling of responsibility maybe. But it's also clear that he's never going to take Connor to America with him.
Yeah, like he makes it clear like Connor says like, am I going to come live with you? And he says, well, the house is small with me and the baby and the wife, and I go, we just can't fit you in there. And Connor,
that's just a shitty thing to say to your own kid.
Yeah, and so Connor, he rightfully so, he kind of keeps his father at arm's length. Like, you are not a trusted adult. You are not going to come through for me.
Yeah. So is this where they trash the house?
Yeah, we're getting there. So his dad hasn't left yet. He can only stay for a couple days because of American what do you call it, the vacation time and all that. He's got a million excuses. He's full of them.
Yeah, pretty shallow excuses.
Yeah, basically like, oh, I can only get so much time off from work because it's America, which we could have a whole podcast episode just on American taking time off of work. But anyway, The monster comes again, appears inside of Grandma's house. So it's kind of a silly image of him just like in the sitting room, all hunched over this giant tree, just all like gathered up into the corner of a giant of a small room, and he tells the second tale. This is probably the most complex tale that he tells because it's really hard to wrap your head around. It's about a chemist or the apothecary, or as he's called. He's a faith healer. He goes out, he collects herbs, and he treats rashes and things like that, and he can help cure diseases and whatnot. And he clashes though with a parson who has two daughters, and the parson is a big practitioner of more modern medicine and prayer and faith-based healing. So he ostracizes the apothecary, won't let him gather fruits and what do you call materials from the yew tree on his property.
Yeah, there's the yew tree on the property. He won't let the healer get the harvest any of the berries or bark off the tree, which are supposed to be healing. But then his daughters get sick.
Yep, the apothecary offers to help. The parson refuses his help. Nothing that the parson does, though, is helping his daughters get better. So eventually he does go to the apothecary, and he apologizes, and he begs for help. And the apothecary asks him, he's like, would you renounce your faith to save your children? And the parson says, yes. And the apothecary says, then I will not help you. And then the parson's daughters die, and the yew tree, he's very vague about what he does. He says, I go and smash that dolt's house, or I smash that idiot's house. And Connor thinking he's talking about the cruel apothecary who let two children die rather than help them. But then he says he went actually and smashed the parson's house, who just lost his children. He went and destroyed his house.
And then, as Connor's like, why would you do that? Why'd you go after the good guy? And then the yew tree has to explain, well, because he gave up his faith. He was willing to give up anything and thus lost everything.
Yeah, he destroyed the apothecary's life over a faith that he, in the end, did not believe in completely, because he was willing to renounce it to save somebody. So it's a very complex story to wrap your head around. The movie version doesn't even do a good job of explaining it. The book does a much better job. I probably should have pulled a quote from it, but essentially, yeah, the apothecary, like the parson's he did a bad thing for a good reason. The apothecary did also a bad thing for a good reason. So they're both it's a story where they're both bad people, but really only like the one who's posing as good gets punished in the end, because he had carried himself as better than this person.
Well, I wouldn't even blame the apothecary for not saving the girls, because again, he basically said, you've waited so long, and the fact that you don't have a faith in anything, you just you don't truly believe in anything, yet half of healing is faith. So I think if the person had said, yeah, I still have to believe in my faith, then the apothecary could have said, okay, yeah, I can try to help. I can't promise anything, but with your faith and my abilities, maybe that that will be enough to pull him through. But because he said, no, I don't, I'll renounce all that faith just for because it's like, so you can just throw away your faith that easily. That's not really faith then.
Yeah, exactly.
So I say the apothecary is not really bad per se. He's being realistic, I guess you could say.
Yeah, like it's a very cruel thing to do to somebody, to not help them and not help save their children. And yeah, you can see why Connor was fired up over him not being punished for that. But at the same time, the yew tree is kind of above and beyond all that, and he's more he sees bigger picture stuff than a petty squabble between two men.
Well, imagine if the apothecary did try to save the girls and they still died, but then the person would have said, okay, lynch this guy, he just poisoned him, or he whatever. And it's like no, you renounced your faith. That's why they died, because it had nothing to do with the medicine. The medicine was good. It's just they were too far gone. But it would have given the person an excuse to say, you did me wrong now, instead of the lack of action and saying, if you have no faith, I can't help you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the process, like he shows like Connor a vision of him smashing the Parsons house, and like he's like, "Do you want to what parts should I smash next?" And Connor kind of gets into it. He's like, "Ooh, break the chimney down," and things like that. And then it kind of like cuts back to inside the sitting room, and he's like, "What should I do? Like, how me to break this chair?" And he demolishes the chair in the sitting room, and then they end up smashing everything in the room. And Connor thinks it's kind of a vision, almost, or a dream that he's having. But then the yew tree disappears, and he's left standing in his grandma's room, and it has been absolutely demolished. And it looks like he's the one, like his hands are all cut up, and it's clear that he just kind of had smashed up that room in a fit of rage.
But he left the family clock.
The family clock was left standing, yes. Then his grandmother comes in after having spent hours with her dying daughter in the hospital, sees the room, and Connor thinks he's about to get just absolutely walloped for destroying the room. But the grandma does something very unexpected. She reacts by like screaming, balling up her fists, and then she like walks past Connor, goes over to the grandfather clock, tips it over, smashes it, and then just hides in her room for the rest of the night. And that's like the first time you get the real emotion from the grandmother. That's like, oh yeah, this is a person whose daughter is dying. This is a human being. It's not just some caricature old grumpy lady who thinks she knows better than everybody else. She's very much a vulnerable person, as is everyone else in this story.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting the story from Connor's view. So, yeah, in his view, his grandmother's this cold, distant person, and he finally is forced to see, oh no, this person's grieving also, even though I think he still thinks she's grieving over her or she's more angry and just can't deal with him because she's so angry. It's not that he hasn't quite made the connection. Oh, that's her daughter. That's my mom who's dying, and she's just as upset over it as I am. He hasn't made that connection yet, but he finally sees, oh, she is more than just angry and condescending for emotions.
Yeah. And like his dad talks to him the next day, and it's just kind of like, we're gonna pretend that didn't. Well, he tries to clean up first, but it's just too much of a mess. But his dad says, we're gonna pretend that didn't happen. Don't do it again. Also, I'm going back to America because the baby's sick.
I'm running away.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. He came. He's like, oh, I did my due diligence. I'm out of here again. I don't know if it's just like his wife wants him to come home, so she's saying the baby's sick or something along those lines. It sounds like she's, again, coming up with a reason for him why he shouldn't be in England right now. So he pieces out.
And then on top of it, Connor goes back to school, and Harry, who's been beating up on him, says, I have a new punishment for you. I'm going to make you invisible. You are nothing now.
Yep. And also his they find out that the treatments aren't working on his mom. They're going to do one last ditch effort, medicine that is actually derived from yew trees.
And the mom is always uses the yew tree in the backyard. She's always talking about the yew tree, and she's giving Connor this false hope as, well, maybe it was a sign the whole time. And Connor's like, oh, the yew tree monster. My mom always talking about that tree. Now we all the story that I was told about the
mom
the
gets
healing
really
powers.
into the faith-based life. It's like, I have faith that I'm gonna get better, and like that plays well into the story that Connor just heard. So he's like, yes, my mom is finally gonna get better. She has faith. She's using the yew medicine. She's it's gonna work. It's this miracle cure. They should have used it from the beginning. All's right. But yeah, then he goes to school, and Harry has a new thing for him.
Yeah, Harry goes up and says, you want this too much. You want to be punished. You want to be hit. So you know what? I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to pretend you don't exist anymore because that's going to be far more damaging to you than me giving you this attention. And of course, the two goon friends are your typical Crab and Goyle who, wait, what? But yeah, where Harry's obviously the brains of the operation, and he just kind of turns around and starts storming away. And Connor, who's already basically invisible to all the teachers and all the other students, it's like, hey, wait a second. I needed that. I needed your bullying because you're the only one that treated me in a normal semblance. And again, we're getting to the thing. He wants to be punished for his actions. He's like, why is nobody punishing me? I am doing terrible things. Somebody do something to stop me. And he felt that Harry was the only one willing to do that, and now that's ending.
Yeah, and this time the monster appears to him in the daytime at 12:07 p.m. rather than a.m.
Yeah.
Right there in the cafeteria, the monster appears behind him and says, "It's time for the third story. It's about a man who was invisible, and he wanted to be seen." And it's basically he encourages Connor to go just beat the shit out of Harry.
And Connor does with authority.
Yeah, so yeah, Connor, it's a very short story. It's only like a couple sentences. Like, there once was a man who wanted to be seen, and so he made himself seen. That's what Connor did. It's funny, like his view of the monsters arm pushing Harry down, and then like kind of like the monster making himself seen to Harry to like scare him as Connor's right about to launch into him. And
I wrote a note here saying that Connor fully embraced the monster, let him control him. Kind of a final call for help, saying, if I let you take over, you'll fix this problem and destroy the bad guy, destroy the evil things around me, and I just give up all control to you.
Yeah, and he ends up breaking Harry's arm and nose and knocking out a bunch of his teeth. Just absolutely demolishes this kid right in front of, like, in the middle of a middle school cafeteria. So yeah, just really just goes full feral on this guy and brutally attacks him. And even still though, like it's like, this is grounds for expulsion, and like the teachers say, and he's like, finally, like, I'm gonna get what I deserve. You're gonna treat me like I'm normal. Yeah, I'm gonna get a normal punishment. Like, this is, I'm gonna finally be seen. But then they're like, but we couldn't do that to you with what you're going through. And it's just kind of like,
and then
that sinking feeling.
They use the thing, well, we don't want to get sued because he's been bullying you, and we've been letting that happen, and that's a problem. So we're just gonna brush this all under. We explained to his parents what's going on, and we're just gonna brush this under the carpet.
Yeah, a classic education thing. Well, they will, I don't know, not to call out anything, but they will sweep things under the rug if they have to.
If they can,
if they can.
It's not if they have to. If they can get away with it, they will sweep it under that rug.
Oh, they sure will.
But again, this asks, what's worse, punishment or the lack of punishment? What's worse, being invisible or being seen, but everyone's seeing you as a monster? So if you did something wrong, Alex, would that lack of punishment eat up at you, knowing that you did something wrong and got away with it, or didn't get away with it, but people are just like, no, we're going to leave you alone because you're just you and you're dealing with something? Or would you rather take the punishment and just get it over with? And
yeah, kind of. Yeah, you just finished a Dostoevsky book, but like Crime and Punishment deals with that too. Like, he kills somebody and he gets away with it, but eventually the guilt eats him up. And so yeah, like, punishment is there to sometimes help you alleviate the guilt. Like, oh, I did something bad, and I get something bad as a return to help set things right, and that can often lead to healing in the person who did the bad thing. And so I think he was kind of hoping for that, a little bit of relief.
Yeah,
and he didn't get that.
And then being invisible or being the monster, which would you rather be? I know for me personally, I've always wanted to be that invisible because I'm antisocial and shy and whatnot, but just hate being around people in general typically.
Yeah, I'm that way too. I'm just like, just leave me alone so I can read.
Pretty much. But I said, if you are wanting to be visible, is it worth being the bad guy, the evil one, just so that people finally see you? I mean, I think of all these, comic book type scenarios where the bad guy, you can't really dig too deep into why are they doing what they're doing. They're just the bad guy. Well, it could be just as simple as they want to be seen. They don't want to be invisible anymore. Like, what's his face against Spider-Man? Green Goblin. He's kind of just he's a businessman, but he's just kind of in a sea of faces, and then he puts on that Green Lantern mask, and now he is somebody that people fear. He's somebody that people recognize, on the spot,
Yeah. Or is it like a Bane in the Dark Knight Rises? Like no one who cared who I was until I put on the mask.
Exactly, yeah. So what is better or what is worse? And it comes down to a personal choice. And Connor obviously decided in that brief moment, I don't want to be invisible. I want people to see me. But then he has to live with the consequences of, oh, now people see me as something terrible and don't want anything to do with me and still ignore me and run away at the sight of me. Thus, not accomplishing being visible or being him, I guess, is visibly him.
Yeah, it's a hard choice. It's like it's like a Nickelback concert or a Coldplay concert. Like I don't really want to go to either.
Yeah, it's at that point, just take the bullet, Alex.
A couple days and like a week goes by, and Lily actually reaches out to him, gives him a note saying, "Hey, I'm sorry I told people. I still want to be your friend." And she also says, "I see you," with the word "I" underlined a bunch of times. And it looks like they're about to have an actual reconciliation. It looks like Lily kind of saw the mistake she made, and she seems like a genuinely good and kind person. And that's kind of nice. And like she always came off that way, even if Connor couldn't see it. Like the reader can see, like, oh, Lily is trying to help. She made mistakes, but
she doesn't know how to help, and every time she tries to help, she's made a mistake. So Connor will see her watching from a distance, just looking sad because you kind of infer that, oh, she wants to be there for him, but she doesn't know how to.
And it kind of almost sets up the ending of the book because she kind of speaks the truth. She owns what she did, and she kind of accepts what happened, and she apologizes for it, and it starts to make things right between her and Connor, and that's kind of what Connor has to do at the end to start to heal. Like he starts to heal his relationship with Lily, and then he has to heal his relationship kind of with himself at the end. So like he's about to have a conversation with her, but then the counselor comes in and pulls Connor out of class, and he's rushed to the hospital, where we find out that his mom's final treatment isn't working, and there's nothing left they can do.
Well, doesn't he go back to the house first and goes to the yew tree?
No, so he goes to the hospital, finds out there's nothing he can do, then he asks Grandma to take him back to the house to see the yew tree.
Yeah, and he goes, sees the yew tree, and now he has to tell his story.
Yes, that's when the yew tree shows up again. It's like, it's time for story number 4. It's your turn. Tell me your truth. And
he has to tell the nightmare and explain what is so nightmarish about it, but he can't do it. And the tree saying, if you don't tell me, this will consume you.
Yeah, and we actually get to see what happens in the nightmare because it's basically he sees his mom standing on the top of a hill, and the ground starts to fall away from her.
And she falls off a cliff.
He dives in and grabs her, and he's holding her hand, keeping her from falling, and he won't let go, but eventually he lets go, and she falls into the abyss, and he loses her.
But he admits that he let go.
Yeah, he admits he let go. He admits he could have held on longer, but he chose to let go, and the yew tree is like hammering it, like being really brutal for a while, like, tell me why you let her go, tell me why you let her go. And eventually, like, he softens up a little bit. He's like, tell me the truth, Connor, why did you let go? You could have held on longer, why did you let go? And like we get a sense of humanity in the tree, that he's not just being cruel to Connor, he's trying to show him something. And then Connor finally admits why he let go, and he says, I can't stand it anymore. I just can't stand knowing that she'll go. I want it to be over. I want it to be finished. And that's like his guilty thing, is he's been holding on for so long, but he wants to be able to let go. He wants his mom to die, because then the pain of watching her die will finally be over.
Yeah, and if you think about it, death is always difficult, whether it comes sudden or long. It's difficult. And say if his mom had died really suddenly, that's one kind of trauma, but this everyday wearing away at your soul is just grueling. It's I don't know if you've ever seen people dealing with parents with like dementia, and that's just like, it could be 6 months, or it could be 10 years where you're dealing with this person that you walk into the room and you don't know if they're going to know who you are, but you have to go in there every single day and sit with them, have the same conversations, have them screaming and yelling at you because they might not recognize you that day, and it wears at you. And with Connor, 13 years old, watching his mom die for over a year because she had recovered briefly before it came back again, and so he's been dealing with this once already, then another 6 months here, and it's just he's done.
Yeah, and I wanted to read this 2-page bit. It's if you were planning on reading this book after hearing the podcast, don't listen to this part because this gives away basically the entire thesis of the whole book. But it's a conversation the monster has with Connor where all these vague stories and things are finally explained in a very direct way. I was like, I let her go, Connor joked out. I could have held on, but I let her go. And that, the monster said, is the truth. I didn't mean it, though, Connor said, his voice rising. I didn't mean to let her go, and now it's for real. Now she's going to die, and it's my fault. And that, the monster said, is not the truth at all. Connor's grief was a physical thing, gripping him like a clamp, clutching him as tight as a muscle. He could barely breathe from the sheer effort of it, and he sank to the ground again, wishing it would just take him once and for all. He faintly felt the huge hands of the monster pick him up, forming a little nest to hold him. He was only vaguely aware of the leaves and branches twisting around him, softening and widening to let him lie back. It's my fault, Connor said. I let her go. It's my fault. It's not your fault, the monster said, its voice floating in the air around him like a breeze. It is. You were merely wishing for an end of pain, the monster said. Your own pain, an end to how it isolated you. It is the most human wish of all. I didn't mean it, Connor said. You did, the monster said, but also you did not. Connor sniffed and looked up to its face, which was as big as a wall in front of him. How can both be true? Because humans are complicated beasts, the monster said. How can a queen be both a good witch and a bad witch? How can a prince be a murderer and a savior? How can an apothecary be evil-tempered but right-thinking? How can a parson be wrong-thinking but good-hearted? How can invisible men make themselves more lonely by being seen? I don't know, Connor shrugged, exhausted. Your stories never made any sense to me. The answer is that it does not matter what you think, the monster said, because your mind will contradict itself 100 times each day. You wanted her to go at the same time you were desperate for me to save her. Your mind will believe comforting lies while knowing the painful truths that make those lies necessary, and your mind will punish you for believing both. But how do you fight it? Connor asked, his voice rough. How do you fight all the different stuff inside? By speaking the truth, the monster said, as he spoke it just now. Connor thought again of his mother's hands, of the grip as he let go. Stop this, Connor O'Malley, the monster said gently. This is why I came walking. To tell you this so that you may heal. You must listen. Connor swallowed again. I'm listening. You do not write your life with words, the monster said. You write it with actions. What you think is not important. It's only important what you do. There was a long silence as Connor recaught his breath. So what do I do? He finally asked. You do what you did just now, the monster said. You speak the truth. That's it? You think it's easy? The monster raised 2 enormous eyebrows. You are willing to die rather than speak it. Connor looked down at his hands, finally unclenching them. Because what I thought was so wrong. It was not wrong, the monster said. It was only a thought, one of a million. It was not an action. So that's basically everything you need to know about the book. There is he's full of complicated, often contradictory thoughts, but it's all part of the grieving process, and it's all okay. And you really just need someone to listen to you and to advocate for you and to validate your thinking. And that's basically what the monster gave him in the end to help him start healing.
And this allows Connor to actually fall asleep for the first time in a long time without having that nightmare and get some actual rest.
Yeah, he sleeps for a long time. It's almost like a reset. It's kind of like when it rains at the end of a story. It's like a fresh start to things. But this one, it's rather than raining, he's falling asleep and he's actually resting and he's getting a fresh start. But it kind of, when he wakes up though, he finds his grandmother
frantically looking for him because his mom is literally minutes from dying, and grandma doesn't want to miss her daughter dying. And this is when Connor finally, it clicks that, oh, this is her grandma's daughter dying, and she is just, that's why she is upset as I am, because how does a mother say goodbye to her child? And so we're, he realized that, hey, we're both dealing with this together, and that kind of starts forming that bond where, like, hey, we're gonna be stuck together, but we've shared this traumatic thing where we both lose the most important person to us.
Yeah, and like his grandmother even says as much. It's like she's driving him to the hospital, and she's like, we don't get along well, do we?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Well, we're gonna have to learn, aren't we?" He's like, "Yeah." It's kind of like that, just like a little connection that gives you that glimmer of hope. Like, oh, maybe things aren't gonna be as bad as it's made out to be throughout this book.
Yeah, and they get back to the hospital just in time,
Yeah,
so that the book basically ends with Connor holding his mom's hand as she slowly passes away.
Yep, and we find out 1207 is an important time because that is her time of death, and he gets he like arrives at like 11:40 whatever, and she dies at 12:07. So he's like 27 minutes left. The monster's by his side as he's holding her hand, and he encourages him to say his truth, and his final truth is he just tells her, "I don't want you to go."
Which, my last note for this book was, I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yeah, that's I just said that, and I'm like tearing up a little bit. That's
So this book was moving. It could make a psychopath tear up. I think how do you not get emotional over this? It is a real kick to the gut.
Yeah. I'm gonna read one more part towards the end here.
Okay.
She opened her eyes briefly, catching him there. Then she closed them again. But she'd seen him, and he knew it was here, and he knew there really was no going back, that it was going to happen, whatever he wanted, whatever he felt. He also knew he was going to get through it. It would be terrible. It would be beyond terrible, but he'd survive. And it was for this that the monster came. It must have been. Connor had needed it, and his need had somehow called it, and it had come walking just for this moment. And so yeah, he's realizing, like, yeah, he can deny it all he wants, but this is what's happening. But he also knows he is going to be okay in the end. It's never going to be the same. He's never going to get it back, but he's going to find a way to persevere.
Yeah.
It ends with a faint message of hope through all this loss, and I don't know, it's just so well done.
Yeah, this is definitely a master class in near perfect writing. Yeah, I don't think you could get much more perfect than this. Yeah, this is, again, there's no such thing as the perfect story, but this is as close as it can possibly come to that.
Yeah, between how well it's written, and also just kind of like the story behind how it was written and why it was written, it's like, I don't think you're gonna find really any children's literature that like hits as hard as this. Like we talked.
I don't even think adult literature. I mean, this is just, like I said, this is geared towards kids, but anyone at any age will get just as powerful of a emotional kick out of this.
Yeah, it's incredibly moving. It's a masterpiece of children's literature. It really is. It's up there with all the other big names you can think of as far as middle grade fiction goes. Bridge to Terabithia.
It should be up there with all fiction, I think.
Yeah, it's yeah, like we talked about Howl's Moving Castle earlier this season, and this is like, I don't know, light year. Like that's book's good in its own right, but this is like light years above Howl's Moving Castle.
Howl's Moving Castle is a fun tale. This is literature. Or the other one's a fun fantasy novel that has some literary scope to it. That this is full on literature.
Yeah, and you talked when we did Howl's Moving Castle about how like modern children's books, like they kind of dumb it down for kids. Like this does not do that at all. This is a very smart book that deals, like we said at the beginning of the podcast episode, like it deals with very high concepts that are very hard for children to understand, much less like adults and everyone else. It's
I don't know if you noticed this thing on I don't have TikTok, but it's out of TikTok but goes on to Instagram. Millennials and Gen Xers talking about the childhood movies and TV shows we watched back in the 80s and 90s, and how gritty and grueling and just depressing some of these things are, where they do have characters dealing with death and loss and consequences, and that went away at some point, and you look at kids' movies now, and nobody truly dies, or if they do die, it's because it was they were old or something. It's not and it does back then they weren't pulling the punches, and this book does not pull the punches. It's like, no, this is what reality is. Sometimes it sucks, but you still got to move on. You still got to live. And that's what that's exactly what this story is saying is, this is a terrible moment in time. You'll never forget this. It'll eat you up for a long time, but there's something beyond. And you're going to have all the feels. You're going to have the laughs and the cries, and a lot more cries than laughs, but it is a good, grounded story. Alex is deep in thought now. He's thinking back to the Goonies.
I never actually watched the Goonies.
You've never seen the Goonies?
Never.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
How did you miss that? That's like a cultural touchstone.
I don't know. I was talking about it at work actually the other day. I'm like, I never saw the Goonies, and my friend was like, yeah, you're not missing much. I'm like, all right, maybe it's one of those nostalgia factors.
You're totally missing something big. We just watched that with the children, and they were terrified, but it's campy and 80s style acting, kid acting, but it hit all the right feels, and it has decent writing to it. Where it is, as an adult, is again, you're watching an 80s movie, but the writing is there that you can enjoy that.
And that, dear listener, is why we ask you to read these books on your own and form your own opinion. We have had people disagree with things we've said on this podcast. So
I don't think you're going to disagree with us on this one, though.
Yeah, you're going to love this one. It's not this kind of subject matter. It can get heavy-handed and kind of ridiculous, but Patrick Ness treads very lightly on that, and he knows not to over-explain. He knows not to make the characters cry too much. He knows not to make the characters like cartoonish or caricaturish.
That's something we've been complaining about a lot of the YA stuff, that more modern YA stuff we have been reading for this podcast, or even stuff that we've talked about in this podcast because we were so angry with it, because it is just this constant over explaining and going over every little thing to the nth degree, and just kind of grounding down the story till it's overly overdone.
Yeah, I cared more about Connor's story than I have really about anyone else's story. Like, was it the Poppy War?
Yeah.
The Rin story, is nowhere as near as moving as this. Whereas, she's watching her entire nation fall, whereas he's watching his mom die.
Or the Some Desperate Glory, where she's just some jerk off character. Then you're like, even if it was, if it just came off as none of this makes any sense because she doesn't think in logical steps, and it's just me. Where Connor's like, it's all about me, but it's not about him. But while still being about him, because it's all actual interactions with actual people.
And the dad's kind of a piece of shit, but he everyone has something that's good about them, but also something that's bad about them.
The dad in this story versus Uncle Joel in Some Desperate Glory.
Uncle Joel has no redeeming qualities, whereas the dad, he's he did some shitty things, but he does seem very dedicated to his new family, and he did fly from America to England to help out as much as he could, and he's not a great guy, and he's obviously got some problems, but
where Uncle Joel, you find out he didn't even really actually save the world. He just kind of looked dazedly along as it got destroyed.
Yeah,
where he's it said so. It just you said no redeeming factor versus he's a bad dad, but he's trying. He showed up.
Yeah, he's never really gonna fix the fuck up that he had, but he's at least gonna be somehow there, and he might be in Connor's life, he might not. We don't know for sure, but he's gonna live with the consequences, and whether he's like the prince and he lives for a long time, reigning in America with his new wife and kid, or whether he winds up bad things happening to him, we don't know. He probably deserves some more bad things, but unlike the grandma, she gets a full story arc, even though she's not she's a secondary character. It's in 200 pages, you've done more character development than he did in all 200,000 words of Desperate Glory.
Yeah.
It's just very well done.
I got some questions for you, Alex.
All right.
Should Connor have kept his nightmare a secret? If not, whom should he have told?
Well, I mean, the whole story is about him not keeping it a secret.
Yeah, but so if he who could he have told in the story out of all the characters? Is there anyone that he could actually you think he could have said his nightmare to, like Lily or his dad or his mom or grandma?
I think he did need this to happen to him in order for him to be able to tell that story to somebody. Like, because his mom wasn't being fully honest with him, his grandmother wasn't being fully honest with him, Lily had betrayed his trust. So yeah, he did need to have that time, I think, to himself to figure it out, even if it was tearing him up a little bit. It's good that he finally told, like, he had the monster to tell, and then he also he was finally able to tell his mother what he was thinking and feel seen by her, because that's the central relationship. But yeah, he did eventually need to tell his mother.
Should Connor have been held accountable for his actions despite his mother's sickness, or is the lack of punishment in a way a worse punishment?
Well, it wound up being worse for Connor because he wanted to be seen, and it just made him feel more lonely because now he was being seen, but he was being seen as something he wasn't really. He'd embraced the monster for a moment, and he was forever a monster. We all have those moments in our life where people think less of you because of it, and that was one of those moments. Even if it did, I think it. No, it didn't really help him at all. Like, it's just like
I think he did need a punishment, but it wasn't the kind of punishment he was looking for. Like, he was looking for expulsion or detention or to get yelled at. What he needed was basically to be forced to confront the deeper set trauma that he was working with, and basically, like I said earlier, he needed a counselor to step in sooner to sit down with him and say, "We're gonna talk."
Yeah, his punishment was even more pity, and he didn't want pity. Like, he was being ignored, and then he became a pitiful creature.
Yeah,
Basically,
and,
was his
and
punishment.
what he needed was, no, you're gonna sit here and like, basically that's what the monster was. You're gonna sit here and we're gonna force the truth from you. And he needed somebody to actually do that for him. And that's what, even though he didn't realize it, that's what he was looking for. Whose fault is it that Connor and Lily fell out? Do you think the friendship would survive beyond this story?
I think it will. I think it's obviously Lily's fault that because she was.
I mean, can we really blame Lily? Look, she's said 12, 13 years old, and you're told this big thing, and she needs now to be able to talk to somebody too. And
I guess ignorance is no excuse kind of deal. Like, it's one of those, like, you don't really know it's the wrong thing until you do it, and then you find out the hard way that it's the wrong thing. She does the wrong thing. That's just what it is. Connor confided in her, and she turned it into a conversation topic with her friends, and it spread like wildfire. When he was looking for someone to confide in, she made that mistake. She fixed it eventually by apologizing, like she was trying to help, but really all she needed to do was say, "Hey, I'm so sorry I did this. This was wrong with me. I see what you're going through. Not my intent. I'm sorry. I should have handled this differently." And she does that in the end, and it works, and it helps, and I think it will repair her relationship with Connor. But he was pissed off, and deservedly so.
Does the title refer to the yew tree monster, or is there another monster present in the novel?
Well, I think that monster is that, like, looming specter of death. Like, he's like talking about the nightmare, and she falls off the edge, and he's holding her, keeping her up from the real monster because there's a monster beneath trying to pull her down away from him. So the monster, I think, is that specter of death that's looming over them.
So you think that's the monster that's calling, not the yew tree?
Yeah, I think it's a double entendre because obviously he pays a call. That's a British thing to say, like, I'm calling on you, but because he pays the call, he comes walking, like, he's doing that monster. But I think there's a separate monster that's calling his mother.
And I think, like we said, Connor's kind of a monster himself.
Yeah, the monster within. Yeah.
So you could really say triple entendre there with the different monsters, and who is really kind of begging the question, what is a monster?
Yeah, the idea that, like, nothing is ever black and white, and it's there's good people and bad people, or good people do bad things and people do good things, and it's really hard to tell who's really a monster. To have, like, a literal monster there, and that monster winds up being kind of the hero of the story because he heals Connor in a way. So
Yeah,
it's
well, he shows Connor how to heal himself.
exactly, yeah. It's so yes, playing with that term monster in a story that's very complex
It's
in its
kind of like
depiction of monsters.
Frankenstein, where Frankenstein's monster is that really the monster is Frankenstein the monster because he makes this creation and then abandons it to the world to figure things out. Even though everyone's like this monster is so hideous, but you find out that the monster was actually had the potential to be good.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's a very good analogy. I like that. Good
You're
job.
welcome.
Nice. I don't have anything else to add to that. That was perfect. Very Frankenstein-y and
What does Connor's father's emotional and physical distance have on Connor's relationship with his mother? How would that relationship be different if his father had instead been dead?
well, he's very attached to his mother. Obviously, like he gets very upset when anyone really comes in. So, like his grandmother comes in, immediately drives a wedge between him and his mother, and then his father comes in, as he creates even more distance. So he's very attached. He's very clingy to his mother. He's very protective of her, and like that shows the entire way through. That's his relationship. Like this is his primary parent. This is his trusted adult. The other guy, he's clearly a deadbeat. He's moved away. He's essentially abandoned me. He's basically he calls and visits just enough to make me miss him more. And so like this is the like mom is the one person in my life that I can consistently rely on. So that's a very, very close relationship that he's losing in this story.
As we said earlier, only Connor can see the monster. Is it all in his head, or is it really there? And why can only Connor see and feel its destruction?
Well, I think that's the mystery of the book, isn't it?
Well, again, I kind of bringing it back to this is taking place in England and with the heavy Fey influences. I think that if say you had a child that was into Fey or an adult that had learned about the history of the Fey in England, they would have probably equated it closer to that. And it's like, yeah, there are instances where only a person could see the Fey and they're controlling that person, and that's the lore. Where here we don't have that, but knowing that context is possible, and yew trees being a very important tree to the ancient Celtic people who believed heavily in the fairy folk, I could kind of see where again where this story came from, and kind of implying that this is as real as you think it is, but it may be all in your head, but it's not necessarily you putting it in your head either. There is another force at work here, and just because you're the only one that can personify it at that moment doesn't mean it's not really there.
Yeah, and this is a quick aside. This is like I'm guessing Patrick Ness knows a lot about that kind of lore with Fae and yew trees and like all that great English mythology. He does not really stop to explain it ever, which I think is the perfect way to exhibit research in a book. You don't have to stop and talk about all the cool things you learned at the library. You can just use that to create a story.
I think that would have been detrimental to this story because it's not needed.
Yeah, that would have just padded out the story to 300 pages to help sell a book that's the average length that people want to read, rather than having a shorter story that doesn't sell as much.
But again, it's not needed in this because Connor has no context to that. It doesn't matter to the story. It's this is a standalone story. It's not a serial that we need every little detail on the monster, and then as you learn more about the monster, there's all these other Fey creature that it interacts with off screen.
Yeah,
it's that has no bearing on this story. It is a story about Connor and his mother and losing the battle to cancer.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's just keeping it simple with that. Could have got lost in the weeds with the lore, but he doesn't. It gives you just enough lore to make it work.
What does it say about Connor that he is tired of waiting for his mother to die? Is this shocking?
I don't think it's shocking. It's like you don't really realize as you're reading it that that's what the truth is, because obviously you'd think like, oh, he's hoping that she'll pull through, or he's just wishes it had never happened to begin with. Like that's a horrible thought to like someone you wanting someone you love to die.
But like you said, where the monster said that people are complex and they think 1,000 thoughts and running the full spectrum, and it's just that's human. That's not that's normal.
Yeah, exactly. So it can be shocking to admit those thoughts, but at the same time, it is perfectly natural. It is
So
fine to like the monster said. It's fine to think. It's another thing to do. Like you can think thoughts, but they don't really become real until you act on them.
I listen to Jocko podcast. He's a ex Navy SEAL, and he talks to a lot of other veterans. And what Jocko realized, and what a lot of these other veterans who are commanders and officers realize, that going into battle, they always point out the new guy, but a lot of people about to go into battle where they know they're about to see something bad get nervous, and they all said the best thing to do was to say this to the soldier that's getting nervous. Hey, this is, and they point out to like fighters and MMA and all that stuff. Hey, this is normal. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be scared. Everybody gets this way. And just saying that is enough for the person to get out of their head. So the monster saying to Connor, saying, "Hey, this is normal." Saying you want your mom to die, that's a normal thought. Everybody thinks these thoughts when they're dealing with something like this, and there's 1,000 other thoughts too. That doesn't make it the only truth, the only thought worth focusing on. Just you can think that, acknowledge it, move on.
Validating someone's feelings is incredibly important
Yeah,
in life.
yeah.
It's like telling them that they're wrong is not going to help. It's like you're wrong to feel that way. And I'm like, oh crap. Well, that just makes me feel worse. All right, thanks.
Yep. Okay, the last question I got for you, and we've touched on the first half of this, but it's more of the second half I want to get into. How does this book explore the complexities of grief and the power of storytelling and coping with loss? And then the second part is how does the story targeted age group impact the story?
I mean, obviously the whole thing's about learning how to cope with loss. I think reading stories that are unrelated to you but are still relatable. Like we've all experienced loss in our lives. So it can be hard when you're dealing with your issue and it's hard to see the forest through the trees because you are so caught up in your situation. So to read something else that's relatable, that's an outlet. That's a way you can reach out and feel a connection, even when you're feeling isolated, like Connor is in this story, and like you might be feeling when you're going through your situations. So I think that's the power of storytelling right there. That's like the monster kind of mocks Connor for saying like you think I walked all this way to teach you a lesson, like when he's telling his little parables. But it's like yeah, you can learn lessons, you can relate to people, you can find out like I'm not alone. Maybe I am seen, maybe I am heard, maybe other people have gone through what I'm going through, and that's a really big power of storytelling, and it helps bring people together in this world, and that's it's important. I think that's why the monster chose to deliver his message by telling stories. He made it relatable, and he found ways to push these really hard ideas into Connor's mind. And the second one is the how its age group affects or the storytelling is yeah, it's simplified storytelling. It's easier to understand. He uses smaller words. He he doesn't really lose the compliments of the writing. He's able to tell these big ideas with small words, so a
and,
child
and
can
not being
understand it.
wordy either with
Yeah,
those small words.
a child
That's
can
important.
understand. Yeah, a child can understand it, and an adult can understand it without feeling talked down to. These are hard ideas. They are hard topics, but he's not showing, like, he doesn't really depict any of the violence. He shows like Connor get punched in the stomach. He shows Harry get pushed over, but everything else is, they kind of draw a curtain and then they explain at the end, like, oh, Harry got his arm broken and his nose broken, his teeth caved in, and like his mom doesn't die on screen. They kind of like pan away at the last moment, so saves you from some of the extra brutality of it while still dealing with the emotions of it. And it also, yeah, it's not dumbed down, but it's not too high concept for that no one can understand it. It's set at a age range where kids are learning complex thought, so it's great for them to learn it, and it's also good for adults to read because it's relatable. It's told in a way that really just anybody can easily understand. This book, 5 stars, perfect. I recommend it.
Yeah,
To
I
everybody.
second that.
Yeah, it's one of the best books.
Thanks for picking this book, Alex.
Yeah, I think this
enjoyed
one's
it.
one of the best books we've covered on the podcast, just overall in general. So
Yeah, this is ranked number 3 in my books.
number 3. Okay.
Yeah, but my 2 get 1 and 2 there, but
But yeah, this is it's near perfect.
yes, there is no such thing as a perfect story, but this is as close as it gets to it.
But yeah, that's all I have, and I believe we have a episode coming out next month, Joe.
Yes,
don't
we do. We have a pick that I picked, and this is our first repeat author. It's not an author I would have expected for us to be the first repeat author.
Yeah, he's a bit of a one-hit wonder, so we're reading a second book by him.
Yeah, and as Alex pointed out to me earlier today when we were talking, I didn't like this book when I first read it. And matter of fact, I told Alex, I distinctly remember you telling me you hated this book, but it's one of those books that's just always stuck with me. I always, after reading it, I just keep coming back to it in my mind. And so I was listening to a podcast where they're talking about God Emperor Dune, and how horrible of a book it is to read, but because the concepts are so great, talking about it afterwards, you go back, this is a really good book. It's just a horrible book to read. And I think this book kind of falls into that category.
Like a good idea badly written?
Yeah. And so I've already started rereading it. Alex will wait till the day of recording before he starts it. But
yeah, I did finish reading A Monster Calls today.
Like 5 minutes before we hit record, I think.
Yeah, a little more, a couple hours, like 5 hours before we hit record.
But the book I have chosen is The Wanting Seed by Anthony Burgess. So yeah, this is the guy that wrote A Clockwork Orange. We covered in season 1. Wanting Seed is another dystopian novel. So buckle up, get ready for some more ultra violence and just oddness.
Yeah. Yep, a lot of creative wordplay and very, very British terminologies.
Yeah, it's just said going from A Monster Calls to this, it will be a bit jarring.
Yeah, I think from here on out for the rest of this season, the rest are books that both of us have already read.
Yes, that is true.
Yes, so it'll be an interesting close to the season.
Yeah, so definitely make sure you mark that on your calendar. On the 5th of next month, we will be back into your ears. And if you want to get a hold of us before then, you can at by email, kendallbookworms@gmail.com. We're on Instagram at kendallbookworms. Alex has some books for sale.
Yep, Paul Plimpton versus Ragnarok and The Destroyer.
We do put out bonus episodes on the 20th of every month, so mark that on your calendar. We're doing pretty good at keeping up with it, even though both of us are busy. Alex has a new job. I am in grad school. Review us on Spotify and Apple. We do read all the comments that we do receive, and we enjoy getting them. Like we said in a previous episode, that we had one person that neither of us actually know in real life that commented, and we really appreciate them giving us their opinion, and we hope to get more of that. Let's see. I am on Medium, Substack, Goodreads, writing book reviews of books that we do not cover on this podcast. So go check that out. Alex is still yet to get onto that. because he's lazy.
Yep. I'll get there.
Yeah, someday, like season 12 maybe.
Yeah.
Anything else, Alex?
I think we got it all.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening.
Yep, this has been A Monster Calls. Tune in next time for The Wanting Seed. Until then, I'm Alex.
And I'm Joe.
And this has been Bookworms.
Out.